comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Shh, look out for the devil. Look out for the devil. Look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I. You're so afraid of old man Satan. Now, why don't you stop your hesitating? You're gonna be a long time dead, so the devil with the devil, says I. You're always giving me the dickens, telling me that life's no easy pickings. But just as long as I have fun, why, the devil with the devil, says I. You can have your social teas and bingo for your fun, but the things I like to do, you stop me one by one. Now even if you make me stronger, that ain't gonna make me live no longer. So even if I go to shh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Look out for the devil, look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are for another show. Thanks to our sponsors. Yeah, we want to thank our sponsors. So, Christy, let's start with thank. Yeah, no, let's start because without them, we will not be able to bring you this. Yes, absolutely.
So, Daniel, thank you very much for your very kind and generous donation. You're the reason we're here among the other donations that we have, because big and small, they're all important to us. Hayorinmaru, you want to do this? Uzumaki. Hayorinmaru Uzumaki.
Yoromaru Uzumaki.
Uzumaki. I'm not very. I lived in Japan. Maybe you're American, Japanese. I don't know. So, and then we have Silver Hegstead and Malgorzata Minta. And all the people, all the tons of people that bought the book. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The book is, of course, my latest book, The Rise and Fall of a Frankist Monster, exploring Jeffrey Epstein and the most powerful Jewish sect in the world. This book, guys, is a must-have because we finally offer a new insight into the Jeffrey Epstein case that nobody else has offered. The Sabbatean Frankist background of Jeffrey Epstein milieu, of his own ancestry, of Ghislaine Maxwell, and how all of this manifested in all those things that happened, unfortunately, in Little St. James in New Mexico, in his mansion in New York City. Jeffrey Epstein was a creation of somebody. And it wasn't only the intelligence services, like, they claim, or the elite, without specifying which elite. The Sabbatean Frankists are the ones who control all the intelligence services, just like the Jesuits. They are the ones, of course, in charge of the banking cartel. And we know that Jeffrey Epstein was very much into the financial world. So get this book, of course, Frankenstein. It's not so veiled homage also to Dr. Frankenstein as well as his monster, because Mary Shelley's creation, as you will discover from this book, had very much to do with Jacob Frank. So we're going to go back and talk probably more about this book as the show goes on, because it has its links with Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani and the secret history of Islamic socialism. As somebody who was raised in New York like yourself, Christy, you were born in New York, yeah?
Yes, born and grew up a lot of my life in New York and spent my teen years in New York, and I love New York. And I'm sorry this happened. A lot of people voted for him, though, so it must be what New Yorkers want.
Well, today's New Yorkers...
I don't connect with them if that's who they vote for.
It's a product of a lot of young people with a lot of confused minds, brainwashed by the various universities who, as I explained in another book of mine, volume 12 of my confessions, it's basically the way they create the perfect, idiotic, woke, leftist mindset. But the biggest controversy in all this is Islamic socialism. So today I wanted to discuss the very roots of Islamic socialism to make people understand how Zohran Mamdani, a Shia Muslim, embraces something that for some Muslims will be antithetic with their own faith. In fact, I want to open this show with the perspective of Muslim Imam Sheikh who gives his own take, which shows the incompatibility of the socialist economic system with Islam.
So I wanted to ask if the socialism or communism, this economic system, is compatible with the teachings of Islam.
It is not compatible with the teachings of Islam at all, and as well as capitalism is not compatible with Islam at all. Islam is the perfect system. It has some from this and it has some from that. But the entire capitalism or socialism is totally, or communism is totally haram and transgressing, and there is a lot of dhulm in it.
So it's haram, it's a sin for somebody, of course, who has a perception that anything that steps out of Islam is in itself wrong. So there's no need of embracing socialism or communism, because for people like this guy, they have it all in the Sharia law. That's not really the solution. However, it's really diabolic to find this union between Islam, socialism, or Islam and communism. I first learned about it, I remember, in an article I read now over 20 years ago, probably almost 25 years ago, when I was in Norway, and I was reading this article, and I was like, how they can promote such garbage. It doesn't really, but that was unfortunately the future that is now also here in America at a doorstep with the new mayor, guys, the new mayor of the most powerful city in the world, because that's what the New York at least is until Wall Street is going to still be there, but a lot of the CEOs and their companies are now moving to Palm Beach. And by the way, we are noticing a little bit what has happened here with California. People abandon California, they go into Arizona, and they transform Arizona in another leftist shithole. They leave California, they go into Texas, in places like Austin, and they transform Texas in another shithole. This is what they do. They destroy their own states, their own towns with idiotic policies. And then after they ruin them, people want to escape from them. Well, let's go and push them somewhere else where we have, of course, a Republican majority. And at that point, we are seeing now Miami apparently completely ruined. Overtaken by immigrants, overtaken by leftists who... I think, guys, the people like Ron DeSantis, who are so vocal about criticizing Zohran Mamdani, should actually be more worried about the fate of their own state, because Florida is looking like really going on the wrong path. And that is what is happening here. But let's introduce the subject of Islamic socialism, which I want to discuss today. I have... actually, a nice image that was sent to me by our friend Patrick Hiram, who gave me this image. I find say you have a mask, the mask of socialism, and behind you have the radical jihad. This is an interpretation, of course. It might be a little bit biased, but what we're going to be talking to you about today is the actual history, the history of Mamdani, who identifies himself as a democratic socialist, and the democratic socialists are themselves the leftists of the leftists, because they are the reform and progressives of the democratic world. And aside from being maybe having some conflicts with the progressive side of Judaism on the Zionist element, they are very much in bed with the ideas of secular Jews, like, for example, Bernie Sanders, who, even if he doesn't formally identify with the democratic socialist, that's what he is. Bernie Sanders has been pretty vocal about it. Many cases about the support also for Mamdani, no? Like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like this new element in the left, which is really radicalizing the left. And of course, this week we had Nancy Pelosi leaving office and announcing that she's not going to recandidate herself. Thank God. Oh, wow. Good riddance. But she's doing that because she knows that if you stay in the party as it is now, once these people are going to take control of the party, they're going to start going after people. Like, she entered the politics with $150,000 to her name. Now she has almost 300 million. So she has made quite a lot of money with that. And people, how you make so much? Robbing.
So much money.
And if we see her constituents, they are some of the most poor. So I mean, it's so sad to see San Francisco, which is literally a shithole. So this is really what is happening here. But let's go step by step, because when it comes to Islamic socialism, it goes back to the very beginning of Islam. It's not just something that was born a century ago. This is something that goes to the very early days. One of the first people close to the Prophet Muhammad, he said he might have been the fourth or maybe fifth guy to embrace Islam, was the guy who gave the first elements of socialism and Islam. I'm talking about Abu Dar al-Ghifari, a companion of Muhammad and the first Caliph Abu Bakr, and he is regarded as one of the forerunners of Islamic socialism for his advocacy of wealth redistribution. So here we have somebody who already wanted to, the history of Abu Dar al-Ghifari was the history of somebody who came from a tribe in which they were all stealing things from caravans. They were basically the classical burglars who attack the caravans. But then he wanted to stay honest. He didn't want to steal any longer. And he eventually brought his tribe to embrace Muhammad when he then left Mecca to go to Medina for a period of time, when he was forced into leaving Mecca. So the first exodus ever of the Muslim world, he was one of the main protagonists. Abu Dar al-Ghifari is regarded and credited by some scholars, such as the Egyptian Muhammad Safari or Sami Hayyadan, and these are people who are all connected, of course, with the Islamic Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood, which I've explained very well how it came into being thanks to a guy called Jamaluddin al-Afghani. And in fact, Jamaluddin al-Afghani, who was a prominent Freemason, this guy here, he is not only considered one of the fathers of Islamic modernism, but is also considered a very important element in our merging of socialism and Islam. I mean, he's the guy who will also influence Madame Blavatsky when she was there in Cairo smoking copious quantities of dope and getting high, and then eventually getting inspired to through hypothetically a Brotherhood of Luxor, starting then later on her Theosophical Society, which we know is also at the basis of other important aspects of the leftist evolution, like feminism, especially through the feminist elements of the Theosophical Society, members of co-Masonry, radical feminism, but also the successor of Madame Blavatsky, Annie Besant, became also very much, sorry, Madame Blavatsky's successor, Annie Besant. Yeah, she became very inspirational in the unification, in the independence of India, and very much connected with Gandhi and all that. So, in regards to all these people, including also Anan Al-Banna, this other guy here, I mean, these people are people who, of course, stayed within the frames of their religion, Islam, but they understood that religion is something you can use. It was Karl Marx who says that religion was the opium of the people. But even in this case, you have Muslims who embrace communism, who like to justify the whole thing. There is one influencer in particular, guys, a woman influencer these days, very active on TikTok, on Instagram, on all these various modern social networks that propagate things, especially for the young people. And she seems to be able to justify Karl Marx, who hated the religion, who was, by the way, a Sabbatean Frankist-inspired figure, in fact, like I explained in this book, but she just doesn't want to hear that. She actually says, she salutes people, salam alaikum, comrades, something. Just
Salam alaikum, comrades. I'm a Muslim and a communist. And I know to many that sounds impossible. People ask me, how do I reconcile that? How can I be both? And to that I
She's doing it because it's trendy. She's doing it because these people are sick in their head.
say there's nothing to reconcile. They're not opposites. In fact, they've both been misunderstood by each other and by history. Let's start with the most quoted and misquoted thing Marx ever said. Religious suffering is, at one and the same time, the expression of real suffering and a protest against real suffering. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of the soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people. In the full context, you can see that Marx wasn't mocking religion itself. He was describing it as something people turn to in pain, not because they're weak, but because the world, their material conditions, hurt. He saw religion as a survival mechanism, a way to hold onto humanity in a brutal world. To him, religion wasn't the enemy. Capitalism was. The goal wasn't to take away comfort. It was to...
Let me just readdress the people who are watching us might think that we have gone all crazy for a moment and we are living in some parallel dimension. Karl Marx was a Satanist. Karl Marx despised religion. This woman is really, I mean, come on, guys. I mean, Satanists lie, but these people are just out of their minds. It's incompatible. At least, you know, at this point, I prefer the guy with the beard, the sheikh, who at least says, I'm only with Islam. You don't need anything else. I embrace the Sharia and that's it. It's a bit this, a bit that, but that's what it is. Instead, the attempt of merging Islam with the communism, which is obviously antithetic to Islam, I think this is insane.
Build a world where people didn't need to numb the pain. Often, the Marxist critique on religion is how man uses it to control people, not personal faith practice, but how it's manipulated and abused by man. And communists, Marxists, don't worship Marx. You don't have to agree with absolutely everything he ever said in his life. I personally think that even if we achieve communism, human beings will still yearn for something spiritual. And speaking of that feeling of yearning for the spiritual, let's talk about materialism. When Marxists say materialism, they don't mean greed or consumerism. They mean a doctrine that social consciousness is determined by social being. That is, the material conditions of life. How we live, our housing, labor, food, safety, it shapes our beliefs, not the other way around.
Now, this is all connected to Mamdani because, of course, she's a supporter of Mamdani. the so-called hotties for Mamdani. But like I said, women don't even have a say in Islam. We were talking about it just a moment ago here in private with my wife. It's
like she couldn't be able.
She would not be able to say this kind of things if she was in a Muslim countries. So it's important to understand now. Islamic modernism and of course Jamal ad-Din al-Afghani discuss topics of social, let's say, of social justice and socialism. In fact, people like Jamal ad-Din al-Afghani, just like the future Khomeini, Khomeini was in Paris before arriving in Iran and embracing a revolution which was started also by leftist Muslims. So the Republic of Iran is also another product of this Islamo-communism, as I explain in volume 10 of my Confessions, which is a very important book. Islamic Freemasonry and the Secret Societies behind the eternal conflict in the Middle East. This is very important book. And Jamal ad-Din al-Afghani, in fact, that I have discussed and showed you a moment ago from my book, this gentleman here, very active in Freemasonry, was also a guy who claimed to be from Afghanistan, but in reality was from Iran, claimed he was a Sunni, but in reality was a Shia. It's all a scam here. It's a scam after a scam after a scam. Now, which religion is Zohran Mamdani? Zohran Mamdani is a Shia Muslim, a 12er Shia. This is very important because when we are talking about Islamic socialism is developed also in Iran. And in Iran, eventually, when they overthrow the Shah, they will take power. And up until now, we have. Now, the problem is that what Iran is proposing today is not necessarily what the leftists wanted it to be. We had, since the 1930s in Iran, this growing movement of leftists, especially at Tehran University, especially in the Faculty of Engineering, but then also other faculties. We had people who took a radical turn. And they wanted, they created this organization of struggle for the emancipation of the working class, and they wanted to fight the Shah, just as in the rest of the Middle East, they used, I think that what happened is in the rest of the Middle East, a lot of these countries were fighting colonialism, and they saw the ruling class as the aristocrats to overthrow, just like in the Soviet Union, and it was inspirational for them. And often they even had direct contacts, like Iran itself, with the Soviet Union. I like what this gentleman here had to say. I'm going to show you now a comment by Tarek Fatah, who explains the Iran-Islam socialism nexus. It's not a very long exposition, but I think you can definitely get something out of it.
The Shah of Iran was overthrown and the mullahs came to power. Those were the first mistakes made by the left around the world, that they supported the overthrow of the Shah, which was fine, of course. But the fight against the dictatorship of the Shah of Iran was fronted by the multiple levels of communist and socialist parties in Iran, but Tudeh, which was the CPI in Iran, had close relationships at that time with the Soviet Union.
So you see, at that time, I had close relationship with the Soviet Union. Did anything ever good came out of mixing socialism with Islam? No. We have many other examples. Muammar Gaddafi, Ben Ali in Tunisia, Syria with al-Assad, the Ba'ath Party. Often these parties that were created in the Islamic world, at least in the Middle East, were not even created by Muslims. They were created even by Christians, which creates also in itself a paradox. for example, in the case of Palestine. Palestine, you see, today we have had the decline of Pan-Arabism. There is not really a will to unify all of the people, that are connected to Islam in one great, who talk Arab and into one big Islamic nation. So we can say, though, that there was definitely some elements that are peculiar to the period before the Salafi extremist jihadists like Hamas took place. You had another time in which in the Arab world you had the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Now, the Palestine Liberation Organization also that sprang out of it, or let's say was part of this whole largest movement, which is the Palestinian National Liberation Movement. Fatah is a secular way of viewing things, but the incredible thing is that they were very much connected with Palestinian Marxist-Leninist. The Palestinian thing was all connected to Marxism, to communism. Then there was a moment in which they went into a completely Islamic approach, like the ongoing Hamas or other Palestinian factions that are more, that still have retained some leftist elements, but are very much into the Islamic Sharia. And so the interesting thing about this initial phase with the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine was that it was founded by a guy who was a Christian, a guy who was called George Abash. And the fact is that Palestinian liberation, in 1967, when it was cited after by Yasser Arafat, this Marxist-Leninist movement gave birth to a series of hijackings and terrorist terrorist acts. So we are definitely Islamic communism, Islamic socialism, like we saw with Saddam Hussein, with Assad, with Gaddafi, or Ben Ali. In the end, they were all overthrown. Why? There is a reason here. They become greedy, and they become very much like simply using this ideology for accumulating money for them and for the family and friends.
Like Trump?
Well, Trump at the moment is doing things that are not always in the interest of the American people. First of all, he has promised things that he has not maintained. I hope that he continues his great work in the immigration, in blocking the illegal immigration.
You were censored today.
Today, for the first time, I saw that Meta, that Facebook, was actually going back to that censorship that I didn't see since the times of Joe Biden. Now, let's not forget that I published a book recently where I expose John Elkann, who is one of the driving forces of Meta. So
he went and visited Trump.
He also went and visited Trump, but he also controls Meta with other people, I think with Dana White and so on, but he controls the council that controls Meta. And so if you criticize the Sabbatean Frankists, probably you are then limited in what you can share or not on your Facebook. It was kind of disturbing to see a return to censorship on my Facebook, the possibility of not being able to, I was able to post, but not able to share on my groups any longer. And
something you were able to do before.
Something that I was instead able to do before. And some of those groups are actually my groups, so it wasn't really good. Like I said, when it comes to immigration, Tom Homan doing a great job. There is a great job being done in stopping illegal immigration, because amongst those million of immigrants that poured in during the Biden era, there was also a large amount of Muslims. Those Muslims went and enriched the Muslims community that we see in Dearborn just before Halloween, with the FBI stopping a possible, an alleged maybe attack that was to take place on the night of Halloween, which have been terrible. We had been discussing Dearborn in Michigan in our show. So going back to Islamic socialism was born a long time before Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani, of course, is the typical product of Islamic socialism. Why? Because his father is, of course, an intellectual, he's a professor at the Columbia University. So they're all very privileged, these people. But just like I said, I mean, Islamic socialism has not worked anywhere in the Islamic world. It was a failure with the Green Book of Gaddafi. Now, Gaddafi wasn't Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong wrote the Red Book. He wanted to write, because it was Muslim, the Green Book. This Green Book, of course, is not really well written like Gaddafi or like Karl Marx Manifesto. It's a very synthesized version where you have here the solution to the problem of democracy, and then the solution to the economic problem, and ultimately the social basis of the third universal theory. He even claims to not be inspired by communism because he wants to be original with a bunch of people who are probably very ignorant, and he proposed himself as the savior of the African world. And so the Green Book of Gaddafi is really the political philosophy of an Islamo-socialist who somehow managed to, I must say, and this is for a period of time when he was in charge, he got Libya to be decently ruled, but also because he did also some very unjust things. I mean, in the 70s, he stripped all the Italians who had been, who arrived there during the colonies, because Libya was an Italian colony. They stripped them of all the property and sent them back to Italy. I remember a friend of mine, he's no longer alive, but he was a very nice guy, and he was born in Libya. And he was just simply one day sent, they took his home, they took everything, and they sent them away. So redistribution, communist, socialist style, is always unjust, is always a crime, an act of crime. The fact that that Libyan children were forced in spending 2 hours a week studying this book, and that extracts were kind of broadcast regularly every day, brainwashing them. I remember our friend Princess Corona Camaro, when she interviewed Gaddafi. Unfortunately, I don't have the interview with me. I left it back in Italy. I have it on a file, but it was a very interesting interview in which he was interviewed also about the Green Book. They both went under this tent like Gaddafi used to do, Yeah. And with Princess Kaoru, she started to talk to him about the Green Book. So, but like I said, nothing good came out of it, and the result was a tragedy for Libya that today is divided amongst factions and what is a tribal war, and of course then it created also a big problem for Europe, because immigrants keep on flooding in through Libya into Italy and so on. So it is definitely a tragedy.
I think Italy has changed a lot after the pandemic.
Italy is a
because it was pretty bad when we left in 2019.
Well, now it's much worse.
So it's worse.
Much worse. Al-Masri, this guy Al-Masri, who Italy had not arrested, this Libyan warlord who Meloni's government had released, now has been arrested in Tripoli. And the paradox is that Meloni claims that she did the right thing because they had to arrest him in Tripoli. I mean, the guy had a warrant. He was a crook. He did tortured people. He did all kinds of terrible things. but the Italians let him go back to Libya, and the Italians have even the courage to say they did the right thing because it was for the Libyans to arrest him. Whatever. In any case, other figure that brought socialism mixed with Islam was Saddam Hussein with the Ba'ath Party. The Ba'ath Party was...
The what party?
Ba'ath Party. Ba'ath.
Sounds like you're saying butt.
No, Ba'ath.
But it could, party.
Probably could be the Ba'ath Party. There are Ba'ath buddies. But in any case, Ba'ath
I asked for that one.
Yes.
I opened the door for that.
That's it. So this party that was a political party founded in Syria, which of course we saw, ruled until al-Assad was there. And in fact, it was very closely associated with the Soviet Union and then with Russia. That's why Russia protected al-Assad for a long time in Syria. The party was a party that had an Arab nationalist ideology that advocated the establishment of a unified Arab state. Like I said, today they might be terrorists who advocate for a caliphate. There might be terrorists who advocate for other kind of things. I mean, when it comes down to the Shia war, they want to come together as a Shia war, not necessarily with the Sunni war. So the ideologies behind the pan-Arabism has kind of like faded. Arab nationalism, pan-Arabism, Arab socialism instead is still present. And it's present very much. It was present also in Egypt with this guy called Gamal Abdel Nasser, connected also to the Muslim Brotherhood, which I discuss here in volume 10 of my Confessions.
Amore,
Yes.
you're so smart. It's impressive.
Oh, so thank you. Okay, so Nasser was another of these guys who really, Nasserism was very much a product of this mix of socialism and Islam. Then we had Ben Ali. Who eventually was overthrown during the Arab Spring. So, and Ben Ali also was then, he managed to escape, but he was charged with corruption on a massive level. I mean, the guy died in 2019, but at the time when there was when he was forced to give up his power in January 2011, and of course the CIA was behind it, and the whole thing was very much orchestrated. He was just placed in exile in Saudi Arabia, but everything out of his model of Islamic socialism just benefited him, his family, his friends. I mean, it's not like, and don't think that Zohran Mamdani is going to do something different. Zohran Mamdani is going to do exactly the same.
So what's going to happen to New York?
I mean,
we were just going to go and visit too. Forget about it now. I'm never going to have Brooklyn pizza. I'm just making it at home now.
Okay.
We'll have to invent it over here. But it sucks over here too. So California isn't that much better.
No, but
they just voted for proposition.
First of all,
whatever. So
first of all, Mamdani won the elections with an electoral spot by transgender rabbi and free women rabbis, typical product of reconstructionist Zionism or progressive Zionism or reform Zionism, all these forms of Zionism that we find Judaism, that then become, of course, part of Zionism. But in my book, in this new book where I talk about the rise and fall of a Frankish monster, I talk about all these schools of Judaism who have been infiltrated by what? By the Sabbatean Frankists. And today, nobody wants to admit that, because the Sabbateans before the Frankists was very good at keeping themselves in disguise as the domain. Then when the Frankists came along and extended this heresy in Eastern Europe and then Central Europe, they were always very good at staying staying hidden, staying, not showing themselves. But check out the spot for Mamdani with the transgender.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi. We're among the thousands of Jewish New Yorkers who've been out door knocking and phone banking to elect Zohran Mamdani. We're also rabbis.
We know Zohran will fight to make our city affordable and safe for our families.
And for our neighbors of all faiths and backgrounds. As New Yorkers, we're also just people who live here, who don't want to get priced out of this incredible city that we call home.
We know fellow Jews want to be able to afford housing, transportation, and childcare for their families too.
As Jews, as rabbis, as New Yorkers, we believe that all people deserve to thrive. Zohran agrees.
But let's get real. This isn't only about belief, it's about action. So let's build a flourishing city.
Together, let's elect Zohran.
And they elected Zohran, guys. And they are a product of everything that I have described in my book. I wrote an article to demonstrate that. You just saw Rabbi Abi Stein, a transgender rabbi who was raised ultra-Orthodox and became Mamdani's biggest Jewish supporter. So not necessarily even from the Reform Judaism, but actually from what are called the Reconstructionist Jews. Reconstructionist Judaism comes from the 1950s, and it was born actually within Orthodox Judaism. The fact that on Sunday, the Orthodox Jews, the Hasidic Jews welcome Mamdani in this way, it's in itself a scandal.
We recently met and we found out that he's Jewish. His mother was Jewish and his grandmother was Jewish. So, Mr. Mayor, we might find out very soon that
What did they find out? What? Okay, just let me rewind a second here.
We recently met and we found out that he's Jewish. His mother was Jewish and his grandmother was Jewish. So, Mr. Mayor, we might find out very soon that don't hang out with me. So, welcome to our community. And I want to tell you about Rabbi Indig. Not when your numbers were up, when Adams dropped out.
Here we have somebody who wants to challenge me live, and so we're gonna challenge him. So
Who's gonna challenge
this guy said, your book is all deceiving, all lies, all imaginations, all from the dead ashes in your soul. The ashes like a burnt punk, a stink stick that fills the air with its perfume and leaves nothing. Ooh, wow, you're a poet, man. Dear Wesley Corey, first of all, did you read the book? Because it seems like you haven't, because I use only citations from the Jewish world, certified rabbis, academic sources like Gershon Scholem and others. So you are lying here on the chat. And the Jews who, like you, are lying because they're being deceived. They are the sons of deceit. They are the sons of confusions. They are not respecting the Mosaic laws. And you are not respecting the Sinai clause. Okay, we have discovered that this guy announced himself as the second written in Leviticus. Okay.
The what?
He's the second written in Leviticus.
What is that?
He's a madman, because, of course, somebody who declares himself is just like declaring himself to be the Messiah or whatever.
Full of it. Of course, he always ends up like that.
Then it says, gnash your teeth twice Allah. Oh, wow, man, thank God. Man, very good. In any case, you see, the thing is, people who don't read this book and criticize it, but people who read my book and criticize it, that's a different thing. At least we can discuss things. It's a little bit like this book. I thought that this book will bring me a lot of hate from the Islamic world. It's a 5-star book endorsed even by a sheikh. This book, where I talk badly about Sufism, is actually endorsed by Sufis who says, I'm talking the truth because I stay to the facts. I stay factual.
No opinions. I try not to give mine. So.
Now, Sabbathi and Frankists are the ones who have produced Hasidic schools like this one that we have seen with Zohran Mamdani. You see, Zohran Mamdani, and here we go to the latest article I published, in which you have, of course, also the endorsement of another Sabbatean Frankist, Alex Soros, the son of George Soros, who managed to not get into the concentration camps during the Second World War by claiming with false papers that he was a Christian. And that is typical Sabbatean Frankist, and his real name was Schwarz, and the Schwarz were from Hungary, a place that was infested by the Sabbatean Frankist heresy. So it's obvious that they are promoting and they continue to promote their own, lies and progress.
Bullshit.
Yeah, well, they are also financing anti-Zionist groups or anti-Jewish groups. At the same time, we have people like the people when you have people in the Orthodox community, like I stated in the other article, and this is the article in which I say a surprise endorsement of Zohran Mamdani. Can you please read this one, Christine?
A surprise endorsement of Zohran Mamdani is a faction of the by a faction of the Satmar Hasidic community has set off a firestorm within the community, exposing sharp internal divisions about the Democratic nominee struggling to earn the trust of many Jews in the race for New York City mayor. On Sunday, Rabbi Moshe Indig, a political leader of the sect, led by Rabbi Aaron Teitelbaum from Kiryas Joel and known as the Aronim, publicly declared his support for Mamdani at a rally
in Williamsburg.
In Williamsburg.
Yes, and this was what they did.
First day he called me up and told me, I like this guy and I'm going to meet him no matter what the consequences are. He called me after he met you. He told me, this guy is a friend of the Jewish people. He's real, he's sincere, and I believe he's going to be the best mayor of New York City, and I'm going to go with him all the way. So this is who Rabbi Indig is, and he represents us all. So congratulations. Why do we have to waste a few weeks on becoming the mayor of New York City? We hope you come back. We believe you will, and you bring along Eric is going to...
Now, there is interesting questions that are also given here in the chat, which we would like to answer. This is quite an interesting one. Please read it, Christian. I will answer this question because it's actually something I discussed in my book, my latest book.
Mamdani was seen with the Hasidic Jews on Sabbat. At least they were wearing their ceremonial hats. Why would the Jews be so friendly with a Muslim when they know Islam calls for their eradication?
Now, the answer is to be found in the Sabbatean Frankists. The Sabbatean Frankists hate the other Jews, and at the same time they have infiltrated the Hasidic schools. It was Hasidism, and orthodoxy in the Hasidism school was born out of a reaction from the Sabbatean Frankist heresy. I write about this in my book. Mm-hmm. So the fact that this you cannot trust these so-called Orthodox, because their schools, their rabbinical schools, have been completely infiltrated, and I can actually show you that. Let me see if I find something about. Yes, here. This is the. Let me see here. If I can find, Hasidic Judaism, which we know is a religious movement born within Judaism, like I explain in my book, rose in that area, which is contemporary Western Ukraine, which is the same area where you had Sabbatean Frankism, because Sabbatean Frankism was so deviant. They started to swap wives, do all this demented interpretation of Lurianic Kabbalah, which were completely contrary to Jewish law, eating pig during the most holy days, doing orgies where every woman was a letter of the Kabbalah, doing all kinds of things. Then the rabbis who reacted to all this, they reacted by creating the Hasidic philosophy. they reacted creating this new branch of Orthodox Judaism. And it was, like I said, a reaction to the Sabbatean Frankists. But like I explain in my book, the reaction to it wasn't like when Jacob Frank converted a lot of Jews to Catholicism, some decided to stay within Judaism. And those ones who stayed within Judaism pretended to be very Orthodox outwards. That's what I explain in my book, you know? And in those communities, like the ones we see where Zohran Mamdani went, is full of people who are pretending to be Orthodox, but in reality they are Sabbatean Frankists.
And people who don't know what Sabbatean Frankists are really confused, I think. Like if they don't even know that they exist and they just put it all on Jewish people, I think.
Yeah, no, there is a big problem here, guys, that we need to discuss once again, even if briefly before we leave you. The growing anti-Semitism. This book doesn't want to help in any way, shape, or form the people who are anti-Semites, who hate the Jews regardless of their religion, of their ideology.
He says it in the introduction.
I say it in the introduction. I say it also in the back cover. It's quite clear, without falling into the trap of anti-Semitism, because in reality, the Jews are the first victims of the Sabbatean Frankists. Even the people in Israel are the first victims of a state that was created as a Sabbatean state, like my late friend Barry Kamish used to say. So I think it's very important to really understand that this book has the keys to really have a full comprehension also of the importance and relevance of Jeffrey Epstein, which goes well beyond the simple, thing of accusing him of being, of course, he was human trafficking, he was involved in pedophilia, all that. But there is much more, and even much more to the usual thing. He was working for Mossad. He was working for the CIA. He was working for this. He was working for that.
It's too simple.
It's simple, guys, because MI6, CIA, Mossad, Shin Bet, they all work for the Sabbatean Frankists, just like they work for the Jesuits. In the Pyramid of Power, I think it's essential to read really volume 12 and volume 10, of course, also to know the links with Islam. Let's not forget, for example, as well as, of course, Mari's book on Jeffrey Epstein, but Shia Islam, which Zohran Mamdani is part of. Shia Islam is a creation of a guy who was called Saba, who was actually a Jewish member of the Erev Rav. Then, in regards to the Islamic Revolution, and of course, the Islamic Revolution in Iran is the manifestation of this union between the communists and the Shia Muslims. But they were, most people don't know that, they were the product of the ideology that sprang out of this gentleman called Dr. Ali Shariati. And Dr. Ali Shariati was a guy who, since the 1950s, fomented that leftist, he was the most influential, one of the most influential Iranian intellectuals of the 20th century. He died in 1977, so just before the revolution took off. I'm not sure he would have liked Khomeini and the way things went, because they went probably too much into the extreme religious side of things. But anyway, Ali Shariati is very important to understand the evolution of this union between the Shia Islam, which Zohran Mamdani is part of, and socialism. The father of Zohran Mamdani is a big fan of Ali Shariati. So that's why you need to understand the connection, because Ali Shariati was punished by the secret police of the Shah. He had to leave. He went to Paris, and in Paris he graduated, and of course he graduated there in political science or something like that. And I mean, but where did he take his ideas? He took his ideas from Jamaleddin al-Afghani, but but even other people like Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud wasn't really a Jewish person, a traditional Jewish person. He was a Sabbatean Frankist in essence, because he was a secular Jew, and we have a lot of secular Jews who mix together with this kind of people in the creation of something that is now emanating with Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani is somebody who says he's actually a Shia Muslim. And if we go back into the history of the Shia Muslims, I talk about in volume 10, no? This guy, this gentleman who influenced Madame Blavatsky, who influenced, this guy is crucial in the understanding, I think, of not only the birth of the Sunni Salafist and, of course, the Muslim Brotherhood, but is also crucial in the understanding of Shia Islam, because in reality, this guy was claiming he was a Sunni and an Afghani, but he was from Iran and he was a Shia. So it was all, like I said, we have to understand these elements that might seem maybe, in any case. Now, before we end the show, I want to also show to you another description of Zohran Mamdani. What does Zohran Mamdani really mean?
Zohran Mamdani mean? I'm not being metaphorical here. The literal words, what do they mean? As a linguist, these are the types of questions that maybe even keep us up at night. Here's what I could best come up with. Zohran probably comes from the Arabic root Zahara, which has to do with flowers or blooming. And Zohran may be a plural, meaning two blooms, two flowers, or it might just be a suffix that gives a sense of an adjective, so flower-like. And that would mean he has the same root as the word for Azhar University, which means something like the most blooming, the most resplendent, and Fatimeh Zahra, the Prophet's daughter, and her name Zahra is the feminine version of Azhar. His last name is a bit more interesting. Mamdani actually literally means Mohammedan or Muslim, someone who follows Muhammad. But how does it mean that? Well, the Ani part is like the N in English, and the Mamd part is a corruption of Muhammad in Gujarati. Now, this commonly happens. So the West Africans have Mohammedu, the Turks have Mehmet, we Persians have Muhammad, and the Gujaratis have Mamd, or something to that effect, which when added to Ani means Muhammadan, a follower of Muhammad. So his name, Zohran Mamdani, literally translated means something like blooming Muhammadan, or a Muslim flower, even, you could say. If you want to learn more about linguistics in the Persian language, so you could do a little bit of what I just did, then see the free classes in my bio.
Thank you very much. We needed that. I mean, we really needed that. For the new mayor of New York is the flower of Islam or something like that. I mean, it's pretty incredible, no? Somebody's asking me if I will be back on the Quite Frankly show. Yes, I will actually. I think in the month of December. I'm not sure yet on the exact date. I hope we get it right this time, because sometimes we have problems with Quite Frankly, but he's a great guy, and I'm really happy to join him again. Also because, of course, being in New York, it would be even more important at the moment to discuss somebody.
He's in New York?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I didn't know.
So I think he's in New York. Yeah. Somebody instead is saying, I miss Barry Kamish. Barry Kamish was a very nice man. I had some very good words for him. And in fact, I wanted to actually put his photo at the end of this book because, you see, not many people remember him, even in the Jewish world. Even if the Jerusalem Post had some good words to say, I think, after he died about him, contrary to when he was living, because he was always regarded as, conspiracy theories, this and that. But the truth is that in this book, we find the elements that connect with Volume 10 and Volume 12 and with the reality of the Sabbatean Frankist, which, yes, has been discussed in the past, also by the late Rabbi Antelman, who, by the way, was the one who did that excommunication service for Henry Kissinger. And there is, of course, been academics like Gershon Scholem or others. But let's not forget that aside from Antelman, who, by the way, of course, was more of a, let's say, conservative Zionist, and so still within the realm of Zionism, I think that this book, written by a non-Jewish person who has just maybe 1% of Ashkenazi blood, so very, very minimal, a Jewish person, non-Jewish person, writes this book and introduces these topics with the utter respect, without accusing the Jews of being a race of this and that, because that is racism. And that is what really I wanted to teach in this book. And we never have to judge by the race or by the color of the skin. We have to judge by the ideology that they follow. If the majority of a certain color or whatever follows an ideology, well, I condemn the ideology first of all. And in the contemporary society, the Sabbatean Frankists are still interacting with the Jesuits. Somebody say, how do the Jesuits about interact with the Sabbatean Frankists? Read this book. Read this book, or you can read also volume 12, which is about the Jesuits.
It's an encyclopedia of knowledge.
But I mean, definitely there is an interaction, and the interaction started a long time ago. I mean, in this book, I explain the interaction that goes back to also the creation of the Asiatic Brethren, which was the first Masonic group to open the lodges, possibility of joining the lodges in Germany to also to Jews. And later on, this lodge, of course, will become a bastion, a stronghold of Sabbatean Frankism, with Moses Dobruska, who was another Sabbatean Frankist who simply used the Asiatic Brethren, which became one of the most influential group of Illuminati, really one of the most influential group of Illuminati. So you need to definitely read this book to learn more about this topic. Somebody says, why do they put Zionism versus anti-Zionism? Is it possible to be agnostic when it comes to Zionism? This is also another topic that I touched in the last chapter of my book. I mean, Zionism in reality was created by Marranos and Puritans. Under Oliver Cromwell, we have even the creation of British Israelism, and the basis of what in the 19th century would then manifest in Zionism, that was encouraged by the Anglicans before it can manifest as with the word Zionism within the Jewish community, mostly with the secular community initially, because Theodor Herzl was a secular Jew who then had to unite the opposites. The show on the Asiatic Brethren, I think we can participate, because first you need to read this book about it, Dear Magus. This book has a whole chapter about it, and of course I can't give it out before people read the book, so maybe in the future. This book is definitely a very important book, but I want to remind all of you that we have also a fantastic cooking book. This, again, for a more light note, when you want to eat great food with great images, because my wife is a great photographer also. You have these incredible dishes.
You say so. I see some spaghetti sauce somewhere.
What is this spaghetti sauce? What is this? Is this spaghetti sauce?
It looks like
on a page. Some food stuck on the.
Well, I'm
you use it very much, but this is I like it.
I couldn't laminate the pages because it would cost like $100 for this book. So.
Creamy lemon chicken breast is a fantastic recipe. But there is so many, guys, that are really so yummy. The chicken alla cacciatora, the one with marsala.
We made a good pizza today.
Whoa, today we also, and you can learn how to make fresh pasta, fresh pizza.
We're still making pizzas. Whoa. We made salami pizza and another one.
Pepperoni.
It wasn't pepperoni. It was pepperoni.
Pepperoni is called in English.
It was pepperoni. There's also pepperoni.
But that was pepperami, the one I put on top. Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
I can show you the package.
Go and see the package. How much you want to bet?
It's pepperoni.
Pepperami.
Okay, let's.
Go and
pepperami. Okay, I'm gonna go get it because
you have it.
I don't know why Because you usually write. So
I tell you it is. I mean, of course, you will have to go into the rubbish bin. Christy is no longer there. We use the whole thing.
Wait, I will. Oh, there, I'm going in the trash.
You go in the trash?
Wait, only a little bit in the trash. I'm gonna draw it. All right, never mind.
Never mind. That's it. She has given up.
Wait, I gotta wash my hands.
Pepperoni in Italian is peppers, but then pepperami, salami pepperami, no? Whatever. Pepperami. Pepperami is a pork jerky snack manufactured by pepperami.
I saw Oni. I looked
Oni?
straight at it. I saw Oni, not
Okay,
Ami.
guys, the
I know
mystery.
what I saw.
Well, definitely it wasn't kosher. It wasn't halal. And I think we broke every single rule in the book by, if we were Jews or
We're
we
not,
were Muslims. No, we are Christians, so we eat pork. What can we do, guys?
I don't know what I am. I'm just a believer in God.
Okay. Okay. Now, pepperoni is the sticks we are. Okay. In US it's called pepperoni. A deep mystery. Okay. Now, yeah, it's possible then. It was pepperoni.
It was a pepperoni. I know what it
But
was.
because, can I say something,
What?
guys? That in America, you create a lot of confusion with this. Because in Italy, pepperoni is peppers.
Well, nobody cares anymore. We're in America.
But in America, it becomes a salami.
Oh, that was really confusing. You say you're buying pepperoni. I was like, okay. And it was like some vegetables.
Okay, you're not
Right.
right, Leo. Christ is pepperoni. Okay, fine. Christ is pepperoni. Okay, I think that when we talk about food, you start getting very heated in the debate here in the chat. There is the debate starts to become very
I will
lively.
go take that out of the trash. I will
Go-
get my
go-
tongs.
Well, listen, go
I'm
and
gonna get my tongs and I'm gonna get it out.
Okay, go and
I'm
check
gonna
in
put
the
my
trash.
sock up. Okay.
Welcome, guys, to the Leo Zagami Show. We are giving you extra content today. Christy is
Digging in
actually
the trash.
digging-
Oh, here it is.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Okay, we have it. We have it. Give it to me. Let's see.
You know what? I know I'm right when I know I'm right.
Okay, so you're
I
right.
knew I was right about certain things.
You're
and I
right.
said it. I'm right.
You're right.
I'm right.
Uncured pepperoni,
I was gonna say he was right.
sliced. Trader Joe. I must say, guys, one of the best around. No nitrates added.
That smells.
I know,
Okay,
but you
let's
picked
go
up
on
from the
mine.
rubbish.
It smells like. Okay.
But if you ask an Italian, the Italian will tell you. No, the first time I remember, Christy, happened many years ago. I was in England, and there was a vegetarian who said, "I don't." I was cooking actually peppers, but this vegetarian tells me, "I don't," because I said, "What are we having for lunch?" I'm pepperoni. I said pepperoni because I said it the Italian way. I said, but I'm vegetarian. And I was like, but it is peppers, is vegetarian. But instead they were thinking of salami.
Right, I know.
It gets confused.
I'm not confused. I knew.
But Chris is always right.
No,
Christy.
I'm not.
Christy's,
No, I'm not.
Christy's always
I
right.
am not always right. Believe me.
Okay.
I'm not always right.
Guys, if you want to support...
Mostly wrong.
Okay.
And once in a while, I'm right.
If you want to support our show, you can do it with GoFundMe or Cash App. You can find the Cash App handle at leozagami.com together with all my latest articles, or you can support also our show through the purchase of my books or Christie's books. And we will see each other definitely next Saturday.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
And of course, if there is more encouragement, we will be here even earlier because, guys, we have fun with you. So I think we should do it more often. Okay.
Is this more fun than your Italian show? I doubt it.
Well,
You have a lot
Italian
of fun with your
Italian show is very funny. It's very funny. It's in my native language, but I have fun also, I must say, with you guys. Absolutely, it's a different kind of thing in English.
Yeah,
different kind of joke.
In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong direction.
Yeah, Christy, the one and only Christy. Leo Zagami. Okay.
Celebrate God.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
The negative utopia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, guys. Vincenzo Viceversa, the author of this wonderful book cover, is also the author of this track. Images of Albert Calvani.
Technology, social organization, dehumanization. Technology, social organization.